Okay.
Is that good?
That's good, yes. Sorry.
Okay. So yes, this character, Padmasambhava, that we're going to be meeting this weekend, this is one presentation of the precious Guru, Guru Rinpoche, who was born in a place called Urgyen, or also called Udiana, in Afghanistan, present-day Afghanistan, back in the 8th century. And yeah, as I mentioned yesterday, we have a very small amount of information about Padmasambhava historically, but a wealth of story and myth and legend around him, all directed towards teaching the archetype of the enlightened mind, and using symbols and metaphors, the language of the imagination, to penetrate into our minds, if you like. And we're going to start the story of Padmasambhava, a few chapters in, really, to the occasion that brought him into prominence in terms of the introduction of Buddhism into Tibet. So in the mid 8th century, about 760 or so, the then emperor of Tibet, Trisong Detsen was his name. I think it was the first emperor of Tibet. He decided that he wanted to introduce Buddhism to his kingdom. And he got in touch with the center of Buddhism in India, in northeast India, Nalanda, the monastery there, which is a tremendous center of Buddhist learning and teaching. And he invited one of the main teachers and accomplished practitioners of Buddhism, indeed, a man called Shantarakshita, who was the abbot of Nalanda, to come to Tibet and introduce the Tibetans to Buddhism. So Shantarakshita took up the challenge, traveled to the king's court, the emperor's court, and began teaching there. And the record suggests that his teaching was very methodical. He was a very logical, reasonable kind of teacher who went through all the lists that you've probably already come across in Buddhism. You've got the, say the Four Noble Truths and the 10 precepts and maybe the 12 fold Nidana path. So he introduced all of these lists in a very logical, methodical way. Now, there was a bit of opposition in the court amongst the emperor's Bon practitioners. So Bon was the existing indigenous spiritual tradition within Tibet at the time, and it was kind of animistic, shamanic, and they weren't that happy about the emperor inviting in Buddhist teachers and practitioners. And then what happens, according to the story, is things start going wrong for the empire, for the court and the empire. There are storms, there are floods, there are crop failures, and of course the Bon practitioners latched onto this as saying that this is the spirits and demons of the land are not happy with you introducing Buddhism to Tibet. Okay, well, the emperor was determined. Trisong Detsen wanted, he wasn't going to let that put him off. So he says, okay, the next stage in the plan, Shantarakshita, is to build a monastery. That's what you need. If you're going to propagate Buddhism in Tibet, you need to have a base, a center, a kind of Sangha community, which forms your base camp. So at a place called Samyi, they started building a monastery with the hope that more monks would come up from India and they would teach and develop a Sangha, an indigenous Tibetan Sangha community. So yeah, so you've got a picture of Padmasambhava by now. So they start building. The workers set to, and they start putting in the foundations, as you do with any large building, and walls where foundations have been put in. And they do their day's work and go home and come back the next day, fully expecting just to get back to the job. But what they found when they'd come back the next day was the work that they had done the previous day was undone. So the foundations they had put in were uprooted, the walls they had constructed were knocked down. And they worked, they got instructions from the foreman, just rebuild. They put more foundations in, built more walls, came back the next day, same thing. Walls dismantled, foundations uprooted. And the foreman said, okay, just do it once more. And so they came back the third day saying, well, what's the point of doing this? You know, the spirits are not in our favor. They don't want this happening. But the foreman said, just go and do it. So they did, built the walls, put the foundations in, built the walls. Came back the third day, and once again, their work had been undone. So at this point, the news goes back to the emperor, back to Shantaraksha, and Shantaraksha realizes between the jigs and the rids, between the storms and the floods and the dismantling of the monastery, he realizes, okay, we've got to do something about this. This is beyond my capacity. You know, I'm the logical type. I can explain the depths of philosophy and the intricacies of logic, but dealing with this opposition, these obstacles, the spirit realm is not my territory. But I do know of somebody whose territory it is. This well-known, famous yogi in India, who would be able to sort this situation out. So he makes the recommendation to Trisong Detsen, fetch Padmasambhava. And an invitation is sent, a delegation is sent. It's not easy to find because he's kind of a bit of an elusive character is Padmasambhava, spending his time, as we'll find tomorrow, in strange places like charnel or cremation grounds. Anyway, they catch up with him at some point, and he accepts the invitation to travel to Tibet. And as soon as he arrives within the region of Tibet, the spirits of the land, the gods and goddesses and the demons, they realize something's up. Some powerful force has arrived in this land. And let me just share. Sometimes Zoom just plays tricks in terms of what it shares. Maybe it's the spirits of Zoom don't want me to share this particular photo. Aha. So this is an image which gives a better portrayal of the kind of expression of Padmasambhava and the kind of sense of his smile. It's kind of a very interesting facial expression. There's a sternness to it, and yet there's a sense of caring. And this is a painting by a modern artist called Aloka in Norfolk. And I think he captures some of this kind of curious, paradoxical expression of both sternness and compassion, a real sense of care as well as kind of a bit of ferocity. It kind of expresses the fact that Padmasambhava can take on powerful forces. And you see in his right hand, he's got the Vajra. This is the thunderbolt, diamond thunderbolt, a symbol of mystical power that is able to transform obstructive energies. So yes, the demons realize something. We've got a bit of a contender here. So what Padmasambhava does, interestingly, is he doesn't go straight to the court of Trisong Detsen, but he spends about a year going around the wild places of Tibet. And the stories are captured very beautifully in the life and liberation of Padmasambhava, this well-known text. I can give you an example of the sorts of things that happen to Padmasambhava when he's in the wild places, in the mountains. So the demons set to and start to, they say, oh, you know, you're going to find out what we're about. We're going to give you some trouble. So they start attacking him. So this is a typical example from the life and liberation of Padmasambhava. Then he came to Oyug Brahmo, where the 12 earth goddesses each released a thunderbolt and tried to crush him between the mountains. But by his blessings, their thunderbolts turned into charcoal, their strength failed them. And the 12 goddesses, together with the 12 tutelary ladies, and the 12 from above and from below, gave the heart of their lives to the Guru. The Guru bound them by an oath, and to all of them he entrusted a treasure. So they give these beings, these kind of goddesses, demon spirits, whatever, gave their heart of their lives. The Guru bound them by an oath, and he entrusted a treasure to. We'll come back to that symbolism in due course. So the question then is that we have to ask really is, what are these demons then? What are demons in this context, in this symbolic context? There are many indeed. From the life of liberation, there are yakshas and furies and goddesses and gnomes and what are called visages. So I'm probably mispronouncing some of these. Cyclops and mamos and senmos and nagas. We might come across the nagas again. So all these, there's a huge variety basically. What we have this umbrella term of demons, but actually they are many and varied. But what are they? Basically, what are they? Symbolically, they are obstructive forces. They are those forces that hinder our spiritual growth, that hinder our freedom. And there are going to be external hindrances, obstacles, and internal hindrances and obstacles. So the external ones I won't spend much time on. I'm really interested at looking this morning at the internal obstacles, but the external ones might be societal, you know, individualism. Look, I'm all right, Jack. Look after yourself. Look after number one. Might be materialism, you know, the god of mammon. Money and wealth is where it's at, and the greedy pursuit of money and wealth is what you need to do in order to be secure in life. It could be oppressive economic structures, for example. It could be alienation from nature. All of these forces are there. Destructive and obstacles to a rich, full, meaningful life for humans to reach their full potential. So I'm more interested in the internal demons, the internal obstructing forces this morning. And these forces can manifest in many ways. Just to give some sort of feel for what we're talking about, maybe the strongest expression of them are in compulsive behaviors, like addictions or obsessions. And we've all some experience of these kind of demons. Neurotic desire, you know, lust and jealousy. These quite strong forces, emotional uprisings within us. They may be simply on a kind of more mundane level, just unhelpful habits that we really struggle to shake off and change. What we in Buddhism are described often as samsaras, sort of little ruts that we get into, patterns of unhelpful behavior. You know, responses to situations such as anger or fear and anxiety or doubt. You know, with doubt, we can't really commit to anything if we're constantly saying, oh, but what if? No, I don't really get that. Oh. Maybe irritability, you know, that can be a demon in terms of our own happiness and the happiness of those around us in particular. A lack of self-confidence, you know, I couldn't do that. You know, it just, it's such a limiting feature in our lives, stops us from going outside of our comfort zone perhaps, and stretching ourselves and growing. Compulsive self-criticism would be kind of related to that. You're getting the flavor of the sorts of mundane habits that we all have. Perfectionism, you know, we sort of grind ourselves into a powder, trying to the better being the enemy of the good. Self-loathing, eating disorders, all of these can be manifestations of demons. Unhelpful habits. Overwork, probably a very common one for many people is overwork, you know, not getting the balance right between work and self-nurturing. And so if work consumes so much of your energy, if it's stressful to a point where you are depleted for those other activities that really nurture you, and so you haven't got that balance right, you know, they are demons, you know, and you have to wonder, well, to what extent are my motivations? You know, there may be very noble motivations behind work, but what if there may be some other kind of egotistical motivations in there for prestige or status or greed? Basically, all of these are manifestations of greed, hatred, and delusion, craving, aversion, ignorance. And this is all this is Four Noble Truths territory, isn't it? The first and second noble truths. There is suffering, and the cause of suffering is craving, aversion. So I'm beginning to outline then the nature of demons that we're talking about. We all know them. We all have experience on a day-to-day level, both in ourselves and in other people. This is a key point now, that essentially demons are vital energies, fundamentally. They're often unconscious. That sort of, you know, the greater part of our energies are unconscious, and often our energies express as emotions, and often those unconscious energies are in conflict with our conscious convictions, with our rational mind. You know, we have ideals, and yet there's something in us deep down which isn't quite in tune, so that our behavior and our values are inconsistent. And this course is a problem across all spiritual traditions. All spiritual traditions try to address this. You know, St. Paul says famously, "I fail to do the things I want to do. I find myself doing the very things I hate." Now, the key point really is that as vital energies, these demons are potentially really, really helpful. And we'll see with Padmasambhava, when he's dealing with the demons, he doesn't banish them. He doesn't destroy them. He's not like St. George killing the dragon, or St. Patrick banishing the snakes from Ireland into the Atlantic Ocean. That's not the approach of the Tantra. Tantric Buddhism places an emphasis on the possibility of transforming all and any energy, no matter how demonic, no matter how difficult or seemingly destructive, it can be transformed and channeled and harnessed. So the founder of our movement, Sangharakshita Triratna, said that the biggest issue of the spiritual life is the availability of emotional energy. So if we can transform our demons and transform the energy that's locked up in those demons, and get it wielded, if you like, behind our higher plans, our spiritual life, or attaining our what we want to become, we're on a winner. So we're talking about harmonizing these energies, harmonizing the forces and the depths with our conscious values, so that all those energies are flowing in the same direction. How do we do this? Usually it happens around a project or an ideal. For example, the Bodhisattva ideal, that ideal in the Mahayana tradition, which aims for enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Mahayana in a nutshell, or the Bodhisattva ideal in a nutshell, rather. So if we have this noble ideal, we can, if you like, gather our energies around this ideal, to such an extent that we resolve the inner conflicts, and that releases the energy tied up with them, so that we have a free flow of our emotional energy. So instead of some of our emotion being locked up like in the cellar, it's available to us, and we can wield it to our conscious projects. The energy becomes available to us to overcome the habits, because habits can often be very deeply set, and we all have experience of how, we want to change particular habits, and it ain't easy, particularly addictions, awfully deeply ingrained, that the roots are very deep. But if we were able to harmonize our energies, we can bridge, that'll help us break those habits, bridge our intentions and our actions, so that our behavior is more in line with our values. We'll be walking the talk. And that I suppose is an objective of most spiritual traditions, simply in one word: integrity. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is a few minutes of reflection, about 10 minutes or so of reflection on the topic of what are our demons. So getting a bit personal now, reflecting on our own experience. What are our own demons? Can we throw some light over the next 10 minutes on what our own personal obstructions might be? So just find yourself in a relaxed posture. It might be your meditation posture, or whatever allows you to be both relaxed and alert, whatever posture. I did love that phrase from this morning's meditation from Bodhi Lila: disposing ourselves physically, disposing our bodies towards a state of relaxed alertness. And I'll just drop in some questions and invite you to ask yourself these questions. So, what are my habits and tendencies that cause me and people around me suffering? What are my habits and tendencies that cause me and people around me to suffer? What are my habits and tendencies that obstruct my spiritual growth and freedom? So what are my habits and tendencies that obstruct my spiritual growth and freedom? are there any habits, tendencies, or regular situations that divert or drain my energy? So are there any habits, tendencies, or regular situations that divert or drain my energy? Am I aware of internal conflicts that prevent me from behaving according to my values? Am I aware of internal conflicts that prevent me from behaving according to my values? So, are there any habits or tendencies that get in the way of my commitment to the spiritual path, to the path of spiritual growth? Are there any habits or tendencies that get in the way of my committing to a path of spiritual growth? So my invitation now is that you, out of your reflections there, that you identify a particular habit or tendency, a particular demon, if you like, and maybe one that just stands out. It might be the dominant one. It might have been a recurrent answer to those questions, or just might be one that stands out for you. Just bring that one to mind. And what I suggest you do at this point is associate an image with this demon. If, for example, if it's to do with hatred or aggression, you could imagine, I don't know, a hammer. If it's to do with greed, you could imagine a big cream cake. If it's to do with self-criticism, you could imagine a whip. I don't know. Let your own imagination come up with some image, some object that is related to your demon, that kind of captures something of the demon. This will come in useful later. But just to see if you can spend a minute finding an image. Okay, so we have an opportunity now to break up into groups for about 20 minutes. And the invitation is to share. Now, what we've just done is that reflection is by way of coming up close and personal to this image of demons, which otherwise might be a bit abstract, a bit out there. So, the invitation is to, the request is to only share what you're comfortable with sharing, obviously. We do request that all the groups are held in confidence, but yeah, just share what is comfortable to share. So the question I'd like to maybe put to you to help focus your discussion in the breakout group is, what are my demons and how do they manifest in my life? What are my demons and how do they manifest in my life? If you prefer not to go into any of the groups during this weekend, just I think Buddy Lil has already addressed this. Yeah, but if you haven't already sent a message to Buddy Lil, just hang back, and it's fine for us to put you, I hope, to put you in the waiting room while the session is going on, if you don't want to share in the breakout groups.